Alone on a Wide, Wide Sea. Shrevi created Alone Alone, so I'll let you talk about that. But when I read the script for the first time, in the last few years, like my family has been through just a whole myriad of grief, and this idea of escaping grief, or like, can you forget your grief or forget your culture, was very stimulating for me, and I'll let Shrev talk about it.
Hello, I'm Shravan Venkatesh. I was the creator, one of the lead actors, and one of the editors for Alone, Alone, Alone on Wide, Wide Sea. Long title, I'm realizing now. I made this film when I was graduating, and I didn't really see any Indian genre films, so I was like, why don't we make a sci-fi dystopian, something really weird and funky? Yeah.
Weird and funky is definitely one way to put it. My name is Anjali Murthy. I was the assistant director, and I played Soumya in Alone, Alone, Alone on a Wide, Wide Sea. Hadn't really seen a lot of Tamil films coming out of our school period. We all met at NYU, and so like to see this sort of vision that was chugging along, whether I was going to be part of it or not, you always want to be part of a wave like that, and it says so much about society. So how could you not? Like,
Hi everyone, my name is Sonia Victoria Werner, or Vicky for short, and I was the executive producer of Alone, Alone, Alone on a Wide, Wide Sea. I was also the breathe girl in the beginning. But when Shrevi approached me with this project, because I'm also the co-founder of Lighthouse Ladies, which is the production company behind this incredible project, when he came to us with this exciting idea, it embodied everything that we were trying to make, genre bending and unexpected filmmaking, especially in the indie sphere. And so I just couldn't be more proud of everyone here and just to be standing up here with these incredible filmmakers.
Hello everyone, my name is Rahul Dhiman. I'm the writer, director, and actor of Chasing Tales, the one with the dog. And the film was definitely inspired heavily from my dog. When I was growing up, I got him at 7. And his name was Ninja. Other aspects of the film were also about identity and relationships and how they intertwine, are also taken from snippets of my life as well.
Thank you. I mean, one of the most powerful stories are which come from personal experiences, and I must say, I mean, I have attended a couple of sessions. This is one of the most important, which felt like in terms of very powerful, very profound, very passionate stories. Like the scenes just grabbed you. I mean, I'm sure everyone in the audience felt that. I definitely felt that. So thank you so much for bringing such stories, such strong emotions, but also very powerful messages. So I'll start with Rahul and we'll go one by one. So I believe with the story, you were also trying to show not just the breakup of two humans, but also the impact, like the connection you had with the dog and how it became part of your life. So could you briefly talk a little bit more, because that's a very interesting perspective. You don't usually see the impact both ways. So how did you bring that idea into the whole narrative?
Yes, totally. Yeah, definitely a great point. I think there's a lot of films that talk about the separation of two people in a romantic relationship, but sometimes your relationship with a dog or something like that is not as much discovered, but can be equally, if not more strong. And the way I attempted to show this in the film was also tying, in the fact that the dog meant more than just friendship to the main character, but it was also the vehicle in which he found himself in a way. So in a way, when losing that relationship, he was almost kind of losing a part of himself, because it was through the dog that he kind of got out of his shell and started living for himself. So that was what the attempt was in showing it as well.
And it was shot in Chicago, I believe?
Yes, yeah. So it was partially shot in Chicago, like maybe 20% of it, like all the skyline stuff, but the rest in the cabin, we drove to like a very remote part of Michigan. So we got, yeah.
Wonderful.
So, yeah.
Okay, so my question to you, all alone in the whole wide sea, is that it almost seems like a sci-fi and a very emotional aspect, like everybody wants to forget the bad emotions. So what was the message you were trying to convey? Because the protagonist, who is really addicted to that, like dies in the end. So what do you want to say to the world with your film?
I'll half answer it and then I'll hand it off to Anvita. The idea for the two characters came from just two diverging parts of myself. One that wanted to, was raised in the Indian household and family is very important. And the other half is the American race where you're independent and you have to fight for yourself and you're kind of left to tend for things on your own. And I just think that I find that people find themselves on either side, whether depending on their upbringing. And it's up to the viewer to decide, which side you want to stay on, and which side is right. That depends on your answer. I think that they're both right in their own way. But I'll let Anand speak on that one.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that the characters in this film are dealing with, especially our brothers, is grief. And it's something that we all are going to come across if we haven't come across it 5, 6, 7 already times. And less of us pushing our idea of like, this is the right way to cope with grief, and more of us kind of just talking about how can we cope with grief. We're in a very, very traumatizing world, and we tried to like put you into that world as well, where like grief is taking place through mass media. We have access to grief at our fingertips. We're witnessing grief in our real lives, and less of this is the right way to cope with grief, but more of this is something that we deserve to talk about. And there is value to compartmentalization and escapism, but there's also value to culture and community in the way that we can't do grief without each other. And the two brothers were so far apart that they were both struggling their own way to grieve.
Yeah. Right, and I think there was a line which said like you're just escaping the reality, and that's what, because the grief is very powerful emotion. It's very hard to deal with.
Yeah.
I would have liked in terms of the redemption of the character, but this is also a good end in terms of showing like if you follow this path, probably it's all tragic in the end.
So this is actually a proof of concept for a feature film. I think literally making the short film, which was what we had the bandwidth to do with the budget and resources and the humans we were in that moment, it really lent itself to understanding that this needs to be a wider and longer discussion. And I too would love some hope for the grieving characters, as I'm a grieving character in my life, so yeah.
And it was also nice to hear Tamil in terms of a short film, so that's a great representation. Next, Aditi. Yes. Oh, okay.
If you want to hear more about the feature, come find us. I have a little QR code.
Definitely, yeah. So, Aloo Poori team seems like you had the most number of cheerleaders here.
Thanks also, right? And yes, so many friends, our cast and crew. Two of our co-producers are sitting up there as well, so big shout out to them.
Okay. Wonderful. And the movie, the narrative itself was fairly engaging and very emotional. You brought in the nostalgia and also the mother-daughter complex relationship. But the end credits with the real footage of the family was very evocative. So thanks for adding that. That was a nice touch too. In terms of the storytelling, because it's such a personal thing and coming from your traditions of family and motherhood and all that, did you face any particular challenge in terms of sharing your intimate ideas of family, or anything like challenging us how to actually narrate it in terms of the specific of the scenes, or any challenge you faced?
Yes, lots. I think I've quite personally never made a film that has so much of myself and my family in it, and I think after shooting it, I almost went into this kind of like lockdown mode of, oh my gosh, I can't look at the footage, I don't want to see, I don't want to touch it for a long time. And it was really a long time until I was able, with the support of so many people, to get out of that shell and really be able to finish the film. And I think that's because when you make something that's so personal and intimate to you, knowing that your family is watching and hoping to see themselves in it, knowing that the people that contributed are hoping to see the people that they know in it, it's a lot of pressure. And I think it was really, really difficult to get out of that. Thankfully, I had a really wonderful team. I really have to thank the person I made the film with, Owen Gamble, who did all of the photography and all the editing. He was really like a cheerleader in that moment. kind of someone to step away and say, look, this is not just about you. Like, and Anvita said that to me too. This is not about you. This is about finishing the film and making it something special for everyone. In terms of the script process and writing too, I think it was hard because I had such a cool story coming from the fact that, my Masi had this fight with my Nanima, and then my dad sang this song in the car, this Kishore Kumar song to kind of lighten the mood. So I really loved that scene, but then I found that the scene was much longer, and I found that it was kind of bringing the mood up a little bit too much. People were laughing a lot, and then you kind of are brought down, so we kind of worked with shortening that scene, keeping it and keeping the original story, but still including, the beauty of what happened in real life. So I'm just really grateful to all of the people that have continued to cheer on the film so that we could get it to the finish line and get it in front of you all today. And so just thank you to you all for being here.
Yeah. And Aditi, did you also sing the song in the end?
I did sing the song in the end. Our music composer, S.N. Kashyap, is here. I just have to really thank him. It was really quite wonderful working on the music, and the ending song I wrote with my brother, my little brother, and then ended up singing.
I noticed that because a very catchy, very nice song, and I thought I'll ask you, and who sang it, and I saw your name. So great job there.
Thank you.
So Smahi, this topic about menstruation and the puberty and women through 3 generations dealing with it, it's again quite powerful. So could you talk about, in terms of, you did share that it was your personal experience, but how do you relate it in terms of, now that you've been in US, so versus India and different aspects of the culture? So, you're showing this movie mainly for American audience. You want to bring the message to the American audience, or do you want to show it more for the Indian audience so that they can relate to it more? Or, how do you see it across cultures?
I think this story is relatable to every woman in some way, because I've grown up in India and I've faced these experiences myself. I've known people around me who've experienced these things, like not entering the temple, sleeping on the mat and washing their own clothes. But when I told about these experiences to my American friends, they were really shocked that this is something that exists in our culture, and this is something I wanted to bring awareness on, whether it's India or it's the US. So I think it's relatable to the Indian audience, but it is something that a lot of people are not aware outside of India. So it was for both the cultures.
Okay, and one thing I also like, the gender roles that generally we think about, women supporting women, and so that was a little twist there, because often women may not support other women, and the brother becomes an advocate. So that was also a very nice thought to show that, there can be male allies or male who can be advocate.
The main reason for doing that was because when I was writing this film, I was like, it is a film for women, but I do not want to alienate any of the male viewers. So the part they can play is providing understanding and sympathy to the family members. So that was my main reason for having a brother for the sister.
And it was very heartwarming that he breaks his the gullak and to give money for the pads. So very heartwarming. It will stay. I think it will stay with a lot of people. So very well thought and written.
Thank you.
So yeah, so another very powerful film, like we just totally felt grabbed by the conversation, although with 2 people, just conversation in one room can become a little dull at times, but it was not. So hats off to you both. And my question is that, it came from your personal experience, but this dealing with the grief at the time and also adding a bit of a comic element, to show her perspective without showing her as like the negative character. So how did you balance that in terms of writing when you were thinking about it?
So for me, it was really important in my own journey trying to understand why I was such a rebellious teenager or young adult. In therapy, in reading about parent-child relationships, I think it's very important to humanize our parents and pedestalize them, and to understand that they also had a background and no one gave them a manual. They were just parents when we were born. So while I understand that there's a lot of tension maybe in this community where parents and children may not see eye to eye, for me it's important to show why not. And that's why I wanted to make sure both characters have a full background and perspective, and no one is evil here.
Right, yeah, please.
I just wanted to add one thing to that, which is what really caught me about this script when Zen approached me with the story, and then as we were thinking about it from how we would like recreate the scenes, we also just shot it in one apartment. It was really important to kind of look at this as a turning point in the parent-child relationship, where the kid is finally seeing the parent as not just like a parent who can fix all their problems, but as a human being with their own complex lives. And the parent is also being forced to see the kid as not like a little child anymore, but an adult who has had their own journey. And I think that is the hardest thing sometimes, is like parents and kids becoming adults and realizing they can have adult conversations, especially within the South Asian community, but I do think that's a universal situation, and we really wanted to bring this film as a turning point. We're also working on a feature script for this.
I was about to ask that, because this seems like this topic could be explored much more, even as a web series. Why not? Like modern love, but this parental love could also be, it should be explored. Parent-child relationship is such an important one.
Yeah,
Go ahead, thank you.
Please come talk to us if you're interested in learning more about the feature
Absolutely. Okay. So all the men I met and never dated. So I was curious to ask you about the symbolism of the flower that the guy puts on the other person's, and towards the end he takes it out. And so was it like that was kind of an identity given by the other person which he didn't want to take, and he wanted to follow his own path? What was your thought on
That's
that?
exactly what it was the identity that he given to him, that he rejected.
Mike.
Oh, it's not on?
No, I think you need
Closer.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, so it was an identity that he gave it to him at that point, and he rejected it in the end. It's like, you love me not. And then
Right.
you love me not.
And could you talk about the two endings we were talking outside?
Yeah, that's correct. I have two endings for this one, where in the end, you hear the entire ghazal that was actually narrated by the father, but it was quite complicated to translate, and it lost a lot of its meaning in translation. So we came up with an alternate monologue by the character Ali, that he somehow summarized what father was talking. And then we changed it to that. And I wanted to actually send that one over here, and I think I sent it this one.
This one was good as well in terms of the breaking out into dance and overall. It's a very new perspective. It's like it's not just coming out is the only path to the getting internal liberation, but finding that safe space within yourself is most important.
And there are like a lot of people out there that they prefer to live like this. I have so many friends who prefer to live like this. So yeah, that's the new angle that I wanted to show.
Right. Okay.
Thanks.
So, yeah, my question to you, and then we'll open to the audience. So, in terms of your film about Raza, it left a little ambiguity in terms of why Neil left. I mean, it seems to be clear, but what was your thought in terms of having them abruptly part their ways?
Yeah, so in terms of like the narrative, the real thing that happened is that he's lied that he was a senior in high school, and he's basically already in college, and he was just his last time in summer before he left for college, so that was like the narrative aspect. But in terms of like, ghosting him and not wanting to resume contact, it's, from his perspective, it would kind of be just like not knowing how to move forward and understanding like that staying with Ali and like leading him on like that would be more disruptive. And then he sort of had like I would say it's like a cycle of toxic, kind of like quiet, like unspoken abuse that's happening. A little bit of like grooming in the background was the coach is hinted at. So it's just kind of him not knowing how to grasp that, and he just shuts it all off and just disappears out of his life without any regard for what he's left behind.
Okay. Sad but moving. Thank you. So we'll open to the audience. So, yes.
Well, I have a couple of questions. One is about this film that are you talking about a high school kid and an older adult, like above 18? The film you were talking about.
Yeah, so Ali, the main kid, he would be like going to a sophomore in high school, and the older kid would be going to be a freshman in college, yeah.
Okay, but was he above 18?
Yeah, I think 18 or
So
19.
technically, that's like, technically it's not legal.
Yeah, correct.
You're a criminal. So did he part ways? He realizes that I would be accused of seducing a younger boy, So that would be a part that he decided, let me part ways without, whatever. Was that your intent? That, I mean, though sometimes when they are very close in age, even the police people or whoever, they don't treat it like a criminal offense. But technically, you would be accused of. So that was my one. I wasn't sure about the age because he said he was a senior, and senior could be 18 and above or later. So I don't know. The thing about the film about menstruation, it was very, very interesting. But I am inviting you to think of it in another way. In many older cultures, and even in this country, issues surrounding menstruation are shameful and they are hidden and whatever. And people are now speaking up about it, and that we all should be more educated and more open to discussion. But think of it in another way. When I was young, like people would not be allowed to cook or go into the kitchen. That is a relief for a woman in a huge joint family. If she has to make 40 rotis or whatever, I mean, this is one way of giving her some relief. I mean, yes, they put a religious thing that she's impure. This temple, not going to temple, this is like so ingrained. Even I know this is not logical. But you are tired. Many times people are having excruciating pain or whatever, heavy bleeding, whatever. And so another custom for new mothers, new mothers for 40 days, I mean, they are not allowed, no husband is allowed to travel. Hey, this was a way of spacing children when there was no family planning. This was a way, now Western medicine is discovering these things, like there should be bonding among mother and child. Then in a hot country, germs, and so it's called atur in Bengali, and it's called jacha or something, So every Jewish culture has this. So this is a way of giving some well-needed relief to women. I mean, of course, sleeping on the floor in a mat may be uncomfortable, but remember this way, she cannot be troubled by any male member, and the female members are supporting her and giving her a great deal of a big time support. And she's bleeding at that time. When you give childbirth for 40 days, you're bleeding. So all this, in garb of religion, because otherwise people would not listen. If they said to menfolk, you can't go and touch your wife for 40 days, you'd be now some god or goddess or this or that. So this is think of it.
So the main aim was not to show that women should be, like, I agree with what you said, that the main aim is that women are told to do all these things because they are in pain, and not because as the grandmother said, this has been what was passed to her since by her mother. So she thought that it's because of a religion and it's the right way, that she should treat her, the daughter-in-law and the granddaughter in that way.
Yeah.
But what the main reason is that you should be provided relief, and whatever it is happening, it's a natural thing and it's painful, and it is not something that you should not be considered impure about it. That's the main point.
The film was very well taken, and it's a that was a wonderful thing, and it should be shown more broadly so people realize that this is happening. But I just wanted to point out another angle. I mean, I sometimes wish when I was working here, much younger, hey, why don't they have this rule, 3 days off from your work or whatever when you're menstruating? This would be very welcome, you know. But of course, it doesn't happen in real life. You can't afford it. But thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, very, very nice films actually. Congratulations to you all. My question to the last film, there was this very apparent silence throughout the film, which I really loved, and the particular style that you chose, it was, it affected me in a great way. So can you talk about your stylistic choice as a director?
Yeah, I mean, of course, one of the coolest things about film is how you can manipulate time and manipulate the way people experience time, because we're all stuck here in a dark room, and, you know, a 15-minute film can either feel like 5 minutes or feel like 30 minutes, and I know the general feeling, at least when you're taught film, is that don't make the film feel long, but I really disagree with that. I really like it when I can feel the burden of time, the weight of time, the weight of each passing moment really affecting me. I think it can maximize the emotion of a film in certain cases, so... I mean, one of the big things about my film in particular was making an audience feel an unseen pressure, so that's why I went was the idea of just holding on shots, allowing atmospheres, allowing coverage to linger, because especially, you know, I'm still young, but it's better now, but even when I went to high school, like pre-2016, like, you know, being gay or being queer in high school was still, like, not cool necessarily. And then even in athletics right now, like, it's not very open to the queer community, at least like male athletics. So just wanting to make an audience feel that unspoken pressure by making them like feel the weight of time, the weight of each moment passing.
Okay, great. Any more questions? Okay.
Oh, just a quick comment. First of all, thank you for the invite, for getting us up here. I've never been to a film screening like this. Or anyone and the films that you guys all made are just unbelievable. I've been doing stuff with college stuff and high school speech and debate teams, and so many people, and this is insanely good. Your films are like fantastic, all of them, and they all, to some degree, made me bristle and really feel uncomfortable. So your subject matter is so, I just don't have real words for it. But I totally appreciate what you did. The stuff that was done on the menstruation thing, I'm an OBGYN, and you hit the nail on the head. It is very taboo. Women don't talk about it. They don't talk about miscarriages either, by the way. There's a lot of things that you would say, oh, you know, the men don't understand. We definitely do not understand. But it's also because you don't let us understand some of the stuff, because it's all so hidden. I think this thing about this, will U.S. audiences understand, or Indian audiences, or whatever, I think there's another continent in Africa that's doing the same practices that we are. So I think it's huge. So your stuff that you guys have done is like, to me, it's unbelievable. And I really, really appreciate the questions that, I'm not sure I know her name, but what you did in terms of asking it without any notes, which I'm shocked. But it's an amazing event. Thank you guys for letting us participate.
I just wanted to echo Sunny's comments, and we're so proud of you guys. You know, such great talent to see, and yeah, you certainly made us tear up many times. Thanks.
I want to congratulate this group. You guys have done an amazing job. So thank you for putting up such different perspectives in front of us. Congratulations. And I have a question from Chasing Tails. In the end, I heard a bark. Does the dog come back?
Yes, so that is very up to interpretation, but in my mind, yes.
Okay.
So, and I think, thank you.
Yeah, my intention with the bark at the end definitely was to insinuate, obviously the dog went missing, and that Essentially, the essence behind that is that the dog every day goes to that same spot where they used to meet, as it reminds him. And then this guy was kind of just going on the dog's birthday just once a year, and so the dog was kind of barking. And so obviously, I have a vision for what a feature film version of what this would look like, with less montages and having some of the relationships go a little longer. But this would kind of be the, I guess you call it intermission climax point, and see what happens after that.
All right, well, I hope you get to make that, because I'd love to see it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, full disclosure, I'm SN Kashyap. I scored the music for Aloo Poori. But Chasing Tales, man, what a beautiful movie. I mean, beautiful people, beautiful cinematography, and the dog not showing up in the final scene was, for me, the kicker. I think symbolically it showed up, and the guy got closure. So that was beautifully made. Congratulations. It was so good. Alone, I'm a Tamilian. We gotta make more Tamil sci-fi movies. We gotta do this, because this thing just, I think it opened like a window in my mind. Like, we gotta do this. Like, there needs to be more of this. It was beautiful. It was, I can't even figure out how many dimensions I need to explore to like figure out what you guys wanted to say. I'm going to think about this for a long, long time.
That's why it was confusing to me.
No, it had dimensions within dimensions. Its dimensions had dimensions. It was really, really.
Did you hopefully, what I got out of it is that this girl wanted some perfect version of God knows what, and she was looking and looking, and of course you can't, there is no ideal man, like there is no ideal gas. So it's something like that. It's hypothetical. But so finally she stitched her own or something.
And nobody is here from Stitch, right? Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, from that team, no, we don't have anyone.
Hello. Aloo Poori, I won't say anything, I'll be obviously biased, but Michael, you did an amazing rendering of what I sang and made my mother-in-law laugh, so good job. It was love to me, dude, I loved it. Like, I don't know how you framed everything, it was so good. And the dancing scene at the end, that just closed the whole movie. So congratulations, it was so well done. It was
note on that. My co-writer, he was against of it, and he said the film finished, and he just left. I was like, no.
No, it was beautiful. It was just, and the last one, it was love to me. I don't know how you can make a movie with so little words and so many just stills and expressions and just convey everything. It was like very deep. Very well done. Good job.
Thank you.
Lastly, RSVP, Zen Dot, you have like the coolest name. I wish I had thought of it. And you also have the tagline that me and my wife, we use on Aditi, our daughter, who made Aloo Poori. We say, we didn't come with a manual to raise you, but your acting was sensational. Congratulations. I think Aditi, you need to take notes about how to make a whole movie in one single freaking house. The thing she put us through for Aloo Poori. We shot in Pittsburgh and Johnstown over multiple days. We had to host the whole crew. So, great job, you guys. RSVP was very, very enjoyable. I loved it. Thank you.
Oh gosh, that was close to my face. My question is about It Was Love to Me. I think there was a really interesting kind of third layer to the relationship that I felt where the main character also kind of observed this older boy almost in like the way the older boy was observed by his whole life. You know, like he was observed by the coach as an object, he was observed by like, I'm sure the tennis circuit as an object, and then this younger boy is kind of also idolizing him and objectifying him in a way, which is like, not at all to put it on the onus of the child, but did you feel like that was an on-purpose layer, or it just kind of came through the natural storytelling?
No, absolutely. I mean, that was the entire intention of the scene in the clubhouse when the coach comes up and like gives Neil the massage, and that's why I wanted to keep it on Ollie the whole time, just so we could understand that he's watching this and he sees this, you know, this almost like prodigy type figure, like his love interest, like have a moment of weakness, and he understands that this person, you know, can be, you know, he can like get control of him in a way. Obviously, it didn't end up working out, but for like a brief second, he thought that they were equals, even though he had the harsh realization that he didn't actually have any power. It was just an illusion because he's 15 years old.
Great, thank you.
Hi. Well, okay. I just wanted to also echo what a lot of people have been saying. All of these films are so beautiful. But in particular, I feel like I was really struck by the aesthetic choices of Alone, Alone, Alone on a Wide, Wide Sea, and It Was Love to Me. And I guess if I can ask like a dual question, I just wanted to hear about any references maybe that inspired you to make those specific cinematic choices, and also, I don't know, if you just want to talk about like the images you were making. They're beautiful.
That's a great question, thank you. I'm very inspired by Jordan Peele, and so something that, which Anvita will talk about as well, lighting and world building is very important for sci-fis and dystopians, which we did not think was that important when we went into it, and we realized that building the world in the subtlest ways, it cues the audience as to like what exactly is going on, even though the story is focused on the two brothers. But in terms of production, I'll let you speak on that.
Yeah, thank you so much. A lot of inspirations included like Bong Joon-ho films that we saw, like Parasite, things like that. We wanted, it's Alone, Alone, Alone on a Wide, Wide Sea, but I think part of the reason the characters and everyone in the world is struggling so much in this film is because of the lack of community, and we really wanted to capture that with incredibly wide, wide, wide shots. To really capture what those characters are feeling. We didn't even do a lot of close-ups until some of the ending, more intimate scenes. As well as like one of the choices that we made cinematically was like the dolly zoom, because we're introducing a whole new piece of technology and a whole new brain thing that many of us have not experienced, I'm assuming. We wanted to do something a little transportative and something a little weird that you don't see in a lot of films, to be able to convey the pre-breathe and the post-breathe, like how the person feels forgetting. So making stylistic choices to capture the loneliness and making stylistic choices to really capture that transferring over and introduce people to the technology. Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously mine is a slower movie, so taking inspirations from filmmakers like Chantal Akerman, who was this French filmmaker in like the 70s, 80s, 90s, and like I said before about like feeling each moment passing, she's like amazing with time, like something like Jean Dielman in the way that you get into a character's head just by doing the most menial and just like watching their face for like minutes on end. And then another filmmaker was Simon Leung, who I took a long look at, and he's great. I recommend those two filmmakers. It's kind of like watching them, or two filmmakers who make me like reimagine what film can be as a medium, and how we can tell a bunch of different stories a bunch of different ways, and not everything has to be coverage, cutting. There's so many ways you can explore how to make a movie.
We have time for one last question. So.
Hello, once again, just kind of what everyone else said, all these films were very beautifully made and covered wonderful topics, so congrats to you all. I had a quick question for the team of RSVP. I really enjoyed it and thought it did a great job of navigating themes that people see in the parent-child relationship, so I was wondering if you could go a little bit more in depth into what it was actually like finding these themes and experiences that often a lot of
people might have but don't necessarily talk about.
I'll say that it wasn't easy writing the script because I really had to be super vulnerable, and I am an actor primarily, so it's not an alien concept to me, but having to go that deep just so that it's authentic and it's raw, but at the same time doing justice to both characters. I had to put myself, putting myself in the daughter's shoes was easier because it came sort of from my truths. But I think that writing my mom character's lines was probably harder because I also, wanted to kind of make her fully fleshed out, give her sort of a history, but it was important for me to make this heavy topic in such a way that there is some humor added to it and make them sufficiently different from each other and kind of show why they're clashing. This draft was like, draft 13 or 14. It went through so many different changes, and I'm so grateful that I met someone who pushed me to get this made. I don't even know if I would have gotten it made if I hadn't met Prerna. But I think that it took some time. It took me some months to write it out, especially because I didn't want to make the dialogue too expositional, but then there was a lot of explanation that had to come through. So yeah, there was a lot of work in progress drafts of that.
Yeah, and I just want to add one of the main reasons I pushed them is because she wrote this drawing on a lot of experiences she had. But the minute I read one of the many drafts of this script, I was struck with how relatable it felt to someone who had never discussed any of these topics with her. And that, to me, was like a really powerful moment because I realized just how the universality of the story, no matter who you are and what kind of backgrounds you come from. And also, what was really, really important when I was directing the film, and I was kind of thinking about both characters in terms of humanizing them, was drawing from conversations that I had with my own mom as well, but specifically convos that I tried to have with her after I had gone to therapy, and realizing you can't really use the same language with your parents who might not have gone to therapy, because it starts coming across almost as like condescending, or they sort of push back against it. So it was sort of like figuring out how do we bring out trying to really like talk to your parents about really important concepts, but doing it in a way that they can understand, but also not making it feel like you're condescending to them. So it's just a lot of dynamics we were trying to bring out. And that kind of goes back to both of you trying to see each other as adults and finding it very hard because that's not the framework with which you saw each other for your entire lives.
And I just wanted to add one quick thing, may not have been that obvious, but my underlying theme when I was writing it and why I titled it RSVP is that I feel like the daughter is trying to get a response from her mother, like, can you please just respond to me? And she refuses to do that. And my overarching goal for this film was to make people feel seen, like the characters themselves, but anyone watching the movie should see parts of themselves in it, so I wanted to make it as raw and relatable as possible. Thank you for the question.
That's great. Thank you so much for the audience, your patience, attention, and loving all these films. And thank you, filmmakers, for lovely creations, wonderful anticipation for your future projects. So one last round of applause for these creators.
They were amazing. Sorry, I don't know your name.
Ashley.
Oh, sure. You were asking great questions. Thank you so much for the